What's going on, everybody? It's Ron Brown, LMT, the People's Fitness Professional, alongside the co-host.
Mikey Fever.
He's finally got his sound effects right now. So he's kind of happy about that. Oh, we're gonna have a sound effects battle. Yo, so peace. We got the legendary Nakeem Bay in the building. We gotta call them. We gotta give people their flowers while they're still here. You know what I'm saying?
That's
Living legends. You know what I'm saying? Nakeem's been around the community for a long time, moving and shaking. From how I see brother Nakeem Bay is he moves like a man, like a real man, like old school. Like he doesn't say too much, but you see the action. You see more action than he says. You know what I'm saying? And I respect that. That's a great example for guys coming up younger than you. You know what I'm saying? I need to take a page out of your book. So peace to you, Nakeem Bay. How you be tonight?
I'm maintaining, brothers. I'm maintaining. And leaders peace. Indeed.
All right. So we're taking I just want to send Mike this right here. We're taking everybody through your history, like who you are, and so they get a understanding of why I'm calling you a legend. And Mikey Fever even called you a legend, right, Mikey Fever?
Most definitely, I did. I ordered his book. Was the Clock of Destiny when he was selling it on his website?
Okay, that was a while back, right?
That was a while ago.
Yeah, I didn't hear what you said.
I said that was a while ago. That's like 2012. I think 2012, 2013. I got the book. Can you hear me?
A 5% book?
Nah, the Clock of Destiny. Naim Bay.
Oh, COD. Right. I paused like, oh, wait. Oh, yeah. COD.
Yeah.
Around that time.
Now you gave me pretty much like a bio for yourself. So it says diplomatic strategist, human rights consultant, and protocol expert trained by institutions such as Oxford University, Harvard Business School, online, etc., and the United Nations UNITAR trained. And can you before we break that down, I want to start from knowledge from the first degree. Now, when you first came into the teachings, what year was that?
1981.
Wow.
1981. Yeah, I was 15 at that time, and I'll be 60 in August.
Wow. So you had knowledge before we were born, or in when I was like 1 year. I was a 1 year old when you
I wasn't thought of.
No, you were thought of. You just you were on the way. You were on the way. You right behind me, man. You right behind me. Yeah. So I was 1. Mike wasn't even here yet, and you had the knowledge already.
Yeah.
So when you came into, what were you before 5%?
Wow. Let's specify that. What you mean? What was I before I was 5%?
Were you Catholic? Were you Christian? Were you?
No. I was actually none of that. See, when I was 15, a brother named Sincere, he walked on my side as I was walking. He mentioned to me that the black man was God, and that was it. And I didn't have no problem with that, because I never believed in the mystery God, something you could not see. And just knowing that, if you remember, there was babies found in garbage cans, incinerators. There was so much going on, at that time, that I said to myself, how can there be a God somewhere in the sky? This is going on. I don't think God is going to let this happen. There's a God of such belief, So, I believed in myself, I believed in myself. So that was the first exposure. and I was still in the dead world, or we'll call it the world with no mentors, the world with no advisors to guide me. And I, at a younger age, around that same time, I'm 15, I took a bicycle at the pizza shop on 125, where they have now Checkers at. It was the Fuji. Remember the Fuji bikes? You know, that was a big thing. Well, I don't think y'all remember that, but it was a Fuji bike back then. And when I took the bike, I was young and naive. You know, I didn't know any better. You know, again, that was when I only heard back then was God. And then at that time, I took the bike. I went to Spofford for maybe 3 weeks. You know, in the Bronx, and there was 2 5%ers in there. They gave me something called mathematics and alphabets, and taught me the 52 blocks. You know, I was young then. You know,
Is your house rock?
Yeah, 52 blocks. You know.
Wait, before you go into that story, right? So originally you're from the Bronx or Harlem?
No, well, I was born in Harlem Hospital. I mean, pardon me, I was born in Manhattan. I was born at over there by the Audubon Ballroom. Where my shot at.
Oh,
Okay.
that's the
Yeah,
Heights. Washington
I was
Heights.
born in Presbyterian Hospital, and then from there I was sent to Florida, Hollywood, Florida, in the South, about age 5, and then later on, probably around age 11, 12, give and take, I was sent back with my mom's here in New York City, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And then a few years later, you know, I was exposed to the knowledge of the 5% through the Garson Seer, who lived in Foster Projects, also known as Martin Luther King Projects, you know. And then from there, I went to Spark because I was still young, no dad around, no big brothers, you know, and so forth. Only my mom's and I. Then, you know, for Spark, I did 3 weeks, you know. Then some 5%ers gave me the knowledge. I came out here. I went to a law school. It's called law school or law.
A law school of Mecca. Yeah.
Right. I went there, and that's when the journey began. And I got something called 120 lessons in 6 months in memory, verbatimly. You know, my man Kashim, who I studied together with, he got his lessons in 7 months. Right. You know, we have to show and prove everything that was in it. You know, he got his flag before I did because I still had ways of the unrighteous. I was very reactionary. I responded to certain things, you know, sometimes without thinking, you know. So I had to kind of refine it with civilization and righteousness. And then I got my flag after he got his flag, you know, so we studied together. But I was exposed to the lesson 120 degrees. I was privileged to meet a lot of the elder brothers, you know, who was taught by the founder Allah himself, who people call Clarence the Exbiff. Some call him Putin, you know, right?
Yeah.
And then when I got 120 degrees, I was on my path on my own thereafter.
Okay. So you were on your own thereafter. Now, so what was the climate in the nation, in the city around that time? So we're talking in the 80s now.
You know, the climate at that time in the 80s, we was a bond that you could not break. We was a family, you know. We was tight, you know. We was one. You see, true brotherhood, true family. You know, that was your family, you know. And it was always mental. You know, we always studied. Remember, 15, 8, 16, and 17, and you know, and 18, you know, 19. We're studying together. We're playing. We're crying together, visiting with other homes. You know, it was the bond. You saw us on the street corners dropping the knowledge. You saw us in the park, on the train. Parliaments that we had, Harriet Tubman, right? You couldn't walk through the aisles without saying, excuse me, excuse me, excuse me. You couldn't, look to the left or right on the walls. The stages were full. That was our numbers, but we were unified. Some call this misunderstanding or unity as like a gang, like police is a gang, the firefighters is a gang, because they always stay together. They call the 5% that. No, we weren't that. We were just brothers that love one another. And, like you tell us in our families, don't let nobody break up your family. Don't let anybody come between your brothers and sisters. You know what I mean? Right? So we always fostered a strong love for one another. Nothing came between us. We never fought one another in the face, because the law told you fight your brother, not him in the face, right? Just had love for one another. That was our bond. But we cherish knowledge. Always our thing, because the law emphasized us to get educated, to get the knowledge and become a better man, become a better woman, and become something and add on to the value of your family and your country. But most of all, take care of the babies.
Yep.
That was the environment at that time.
Indeed. Indeed. And now in the 90s, would you say that like maybe hip hop might have made it stronger possibly in the 90s after the 80s? Because in the 80s I was big. I didn't know what was going on really, you know what I mean? So like in the 80s, I didn't know what was going on. I didn't come into knowledge until 96. So before 96, what was the climate? Was it still the same? Like the brotherly love, tight? Because I remember coming around, it was tight. 96,
Absolutely.
was tight. Yeah.
I mean, it was really after maybe like the Giuliani age. I mean, Giuliani, the man.
The mayor.
Yeah. We was tight. See, now we're elders now, a lot of us, right? We was always tight. And some of us are still strong like that. Because A like ABC, A like, B like, C like. If you're my A like, that means you don't be like me. That means you don't see like me. That means you're not me. You see what I'm saying? Right? We don't believe in the sense of brothers, right? Because it could be a other. And our nation is about being myself. We are one. So we don't have friends, because a friend will fry you in. See, so we define things. A friend will fry you in, right? So we had a bond from the time I came in knowledge, prior to that time, up until like maybe like I mean, wow. I mean, now it's still strong, not as strong as it was back then, but I don't see the waiver that strong, because see, I'm 60, but I'm still God's original man, right? We have grown in wisdom over time, you know what I mean, right? And what holds us together is always that knowledge, that oneness, you see.
Indeed. So now,
pardon me, about the rappers. No, what they did, like Big Daddy Kane, Rakim, Nas, Busta Rhymes, right? Lakim Shabazz, Love, hey love, right? These guys, they had Erykah Badu, right?
Yep.
The gods and earth, they had the knowledge, and they manifested through their music, through their lyrics, and it attracted the unconscious Asiatics, whom we call the 85%, right? It attracted them to the knowledge. So it helped kind of like bring them closer to us, to the knowledge. You know what I'm saying? Right? It didn't make us stronger, because it's a knowledge makes you strong, if you get the knowledge out, right? But they did what they had to do for their job, and that was to put their lyrics and their science, right, to manifest it to the world, to make them better in their journeys.
So basically, it attracted the curious minds, but they didn't actually live out to the principles.
Absolutely. I mean, see, whether Christianity, whether it's been a Catholic, been a Muslim, only the strong can survive. So a lot of people are curious. When you go into Masonry, you're curious. You go to Moorish Science, you're curious. But only the strong can survive. And only the faithful can survive. Because knowledge can make you or it can break you.
That's true.
You know what I'm saying? Based on your level of consciousness. You know what I mean? Based on your journeys, your experience, and what you understand.
Actual fact. Actual fact. So after having 120 and building with the gods and earths for a certain amount of time, the last time I saw you in a physical, we were in front of the law school. We were in front of the law school at an art show. I think Brother Sunyez and Inf, they put that together. I think also Born King, I think, if I'm not mistaken. So so you're still building with the nation right now, but after that, after having 120 back in the days, like the 90s and all that, and then you went on your journey, you said you went on your own. Where did you go after that?
All right. Well, let me first share it with you, right? So, see, the 5%, a lot of 5%, I never left it because it's the root of my knowledge. And that gave me the foundation to learn and to master all things within my view, right? So, like, if you got a magnet here and a magnet here, if you try to bring them together, what happened? It repels. Right? So it's a lot of magnetic over there, a lot of magnetism over there, right? My job not among the living. My job is among those who don't know, right? Right? So I go among those who I don't know. But in that path, I travel. So my first stop, was Masonry. You know, it was Masonry first. And then it was Moorish Science. Because see, 120 degrees, they are scholarly lessons. You know what I'm saying? You know, it forces you, if you're sincere, to journey to verify or try to disprove certain things. And I always teach or tell people, if you cannot disprove it, then it means it's going to be true to you. So I journeyed into Masonry, I joined the Moorish Science, and certain schools of learning, like our brother Jesus. You know, where he has gone, you know, I'm going to go. You know, he was cast out, I'm going to be cast out. Certain things, and there's certain principles. So 120 is a map, but first you got to know, you must know first what the law gave us. Allah gave us the pre-mathematics and the pre-alphabets in order to master the Muslim lessons.
Exactly.
If you do not study those two and learn it and master it, you want to become a Muslim or being confused. Now, there ain't nothing wrong with being a Muslim, right? Those who, you know, accept accordingly. But I'm talking about what the law taught. You know what I'm saying? See, Farah was one page. You know, South Muhammad was another page, right? Allah was his page in the book. Right? So in order to not become a victim of any other studies, we need to know the mathematical alphabets. And then you got to know 120 degrees through the understanding from a God consciousness. Any other perspective that you draw it up from, you'll get lost. You know what I'm saying? So you need that foundation. Now, I have watched individuals go into Masonry and become a victim. Meaning they got involved and they put lessons to the side. I have watched brothers go into Moorish Science. Same thing. They put to the side. Have you not forgotten what got you there?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? That's only an introduction for you. These lessons will take you even further than that. What happened? You go into Masonry, you get bored. You drop out. You go into Moorish Science, you get bored. Because inactivities on both sides, you drop out. If you would have never left your 120 degrees to the side, you would have kept on going. You know what I'm saying? But you have to actually say, I sincerely love a law of mathematics. That don't only apply to the woman, that apply to you. Do you sincerely love what you was taught? Are you really on that path? Are you just feeling it? You know what I'm saying? Right?
Right.
So answer your question. At first, it was masonry, and I
Mhm.
was 19 years old when I went to masonry.
Wow, that's young.
Wow. Whoa.
20, certain places 21. Second person I
Wow.
heard went in a young age.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So 19. So what lodge can you tell us what lodge you went into
Well,
at that age?
at that time, there was a 4-letter law. Well, you got 4-letter and 3-letter,
Mhm.
right? Which is Ancient Free Southern Masons. That was on 125th Street, right? 25th and Lennox Avenue.
Mhm.
But to be honest, telling the lodge is totally really irrelevant because there's so many branches, there's so many divisions of it. You know what I'm saying? Let's deal with the substance of it. You know, because I'm still in certain schools of thoughts today. You know,
Mhm.
Mhm. Okay.
Mhm.
Now, so when you got there, like I had my experience with masonry. Mike has his experience with masonry. I would
Still in
say
it.
masonry, that experience with going in the lodge was unforgettable. You can't forget that.
Beautiful. 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 Let's just leave like that. Beautiful. Beautiful experience. And if you don't understand what's going on around you, you'll be lost. I'm gonna keep it plain, plain and simple. Allegories through symbolism. And then if your brain is working, you know what you're doing. Let's just leave it like that.
So now
Mhm.
you went into masonry at 19, and then what did you reach at, at what point? Like, because 19 that's a young age. So I would think like by 22 you were pretty much somebody in your lodge, if you will, for lack of a better term.
at 19, I was with 4-letter. Then I went to Prince Hall. I went to Memphis and Miss Ram. So I traveled.
Mhm.
And I went to the European jurisdiction. You know,
Scottish,
um,
right?
yeah, Scottish Rite is one side, York Rite is another side.
Mhm.
Mhm.
I traveled there, became a Shriner. I got 33 within regular mainstream masonry. I got 99 degrees in Miss Ram. I had it for years. You know what I mean? But let me give you some good parts here of understanding. Masonry, because y'all traveled in the lodge before. So masonry is the science of democracy.
Mhm.
It teaches you parliamentary procedure and protocol. It teaches you chain of command.
Mhm.
Your master, senior warden, deacons, and so
Mhm.
forth, right? And
Mhm.
how to stand, how to address the floor. You're being taught how to deal with the world of government.
Talk about it. We had a conversation the other day, Ron. Remember?
You
We
see, yeah,
text with the brothers. You said the way government functions, that's Masonic.
right,
I did say
right.
that. I did say
Yeah,
that, right?
we talk
Yeah,
about it.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Masonic.
That was in the chat, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
You see, so people get into masonry for the esotericism. If I'm concerned, if you got the first 3 degrees, everything else is really a plus degree, right?
Make a
But
shot.
forget
Mm.
about all the party and the dancing and all the other stuff going on. Those are lower vibrations. You know what I mean? Masonry teach you how to be. My first suit was in masonry,
Mm.
black suit, you know, black tie, white shirt, black wingtip shoes, and black socks. You was among grown men and grown women. You age 19 and 20 years old, right? So you're getting a level of maturity. See, for me, you want to the 5% is another culture, right? Masonry is another culture. So everything is a growing stage. So now you're in masonry, and now you're learning parliamentary procedure. You're learning government. You learn how to engage one another. You're learning the value of being a brother to each other. You're learning how to assist a brother in need or a sister in need, and in return. But you're not going in there because you want something. You're going there because you want to be among people that can help you grow and develop. Or you're just curious. And
Mhm.
through your curiosity, you wind up learning more and more and growing more and more. See what I'm saying? So you can go up all the degrees, but you learn in the old school, they taught you no matter how high you go, everyone I come back down to to the first 3 degrees.
That's a fact.
You know what I'm saying?
Beautifully said.
You know what I mean? People want to play with the handshakes and the grips and play with words and do all this stuff in the book. Listen, they don't even do that no more. And they're not Masonry. Masonry is upright men. You know what I'm saying? I know the thing about the concealment of God. You already know. It don't say that anywhere. You know what I'm saying? Masonry makes good men, better men. Not bad men good.
Mm-mm.
It makes good men better. Right? So
Mhm.
so we in Masonry, when you study symbolism, you mentioned earlier, brother,
Mhm.
symbolism is a symbol used to express a hidden meaning.
Mhm.
Right? That's the North. That's us. And the South, Masonry as defined is paternalism. Right? So when you study Masonry, you're studying good government, you're studying ordinance, and you're studying justice.
Mhm.
You're studying God concept
Mhm.
of governorship. You know, and the more you go up, truly, the more you learn, and you learn history. Like as a Shriner, you learn to respect all religions. And if you're a Muslim Shriner, respect all religions, right? Right. So these are the fundamental principles that I have learned when I travel those paths of regulation from 1 to 33 degrees.
Okay. That's peace. That's peace. Now I want to go into talking about after going through masonry, what got you into Moorish science? And did you go straight to the clock, or how did you get to Moorish science?
I got to the more science through, truthfully, let me tell you, through Messiah Bay. All right. But
Ha, Messiah. Shouts out to Messiah.
yes, yes. Because in Nation of Gods and Earths, there was about 15 gods who studied Moorish science, and you had to bring it to our nation. And no smoking, no drinking, and that doctrine. You gotta be able to respect other houses. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Right? And you can't force or compel anybody to do anything that they don't
Right.
want to do. Right? But nonetheless, they can no longer bring that teaching in Nation of Gods and Earths. Right? So in that process, I knew Messiah. I knew other brothers too in it, but it was Messiah. So Messiah had Moorish science, and I had masonry. So I gave him the esoteric side of masonry, and he gave me some clock credentials, and
Mhm.
that was my introduction to it. Then I went to the Grace Association, Moorish Affairs, for about 3 months. He used to say, "Why you there? Because this, because of that." But I'm my own man, so I journeyed there. Um, and some history happened in the past. Is how I got the clock of destiny. I can mention certain names that can verify. Ralim Salahudin, Ralim,
Mhm.
Messiah, Man God, even Hakeem Bay, Naherti Ill. I'm naming these Moors that they can say, no, I was there when Nakeem got the right to the clock of destiny.
Man, you're naming some heavy hitters right there. Now,
For real.
now, as far as the Bay cipher, do you know anything about the Bay cipher?
I couldn't really tell you much because I was not a member of that base cipher. I just knew that they were sharply dressed, clean features, very articulate, very unified, and they only had like the Moorish Quran and a few pages of the Moorish Constitution, how I was told. And it had a card called the Clock of Destiny. It was not the correct card, but they had a card. And you had Brother A. Leak. He was one of the forerunners of it for sure. And that's what I was informed about them. You know,
Now, what was it, like a group of gods and Moors, or was it just Moors
now,
that? No, no.
yeah. You gotta be, you can't be a bunch of Moors and these gods and earths telling you Moors, you trying to influence us. That ain't happening, right?
Right, right,
These
right.
here were gods that took on the science you know, who
Mhm.
claim also like me, you know, my nationality is Moorish American. I'm American.
Mhm.
I'm part and parcel of this said government of the USA, right?
Mhm.
But my nature is God.
Right.
If I was Greek and I said I was God, you would say, yeah, okay, you Greek, right? 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 So my nature is God. Other than that is the devil. You know, the Bible says, you are in my image and likeness. So the likeness is, you know, the qualities, the potential. It's not saying that I have reached that full potential,
Mhm.
but how can you turn from God and still be God, right?
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
they're not turning away from the true darkness from which you came. The essence of yourself is who you are.
I have a question. When you got into Moorish science, what made did you see the difference? How were you able to differentiate the regular Moorish teachings of the Moorish science teaching of America from CM Bay's teaching? What?
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. See, the Moorish Science of America
Mhm.
follows the 101 questionnaire, Cycle 7 Moorish Quran, right?
Mhm.
And the teachings of the prophet, the word of mouth, are sayings. They're not involved with anything really on the outside of that. Some may have the clock book and so forth, but that's on the sideline. The clock of destiny that I had, right? Um, you know, as Sharif Anu Bay said one time on Facebook, I was given the Facebook interaction. Someone asked the clock of destiny, what are they? Who are they? And Sharif Anu Bay said, the Grand Sheikh now he is in Syracuse, they're like the semi boule, right? Singing part five, right?
Mhm.
Um, and how I discern that is that we are professional men and women in the clock of destiny. You know what I'm saying? We don't do anything against the state, federal, or city government. You know what I'm saying? We believe in being industrious and successful. We don't talk about anyone in a bad way that cause mischief and bloodshed in the land.
Mhm.
Right? We have principles. Naim Bay addresses, you know, no drugs, none of that. Now you have the MSTV and you have the clock of destiny.
Yeah.
You know, all right. And you have those in the middle.
Mhm.
A little bit of Drew, a little bit of CMB, and a little bit of the Freemans, Waco, Texas, Posse Committee, Solving Group, right? But they have no home over there and no home over there.
Mhm.
And none of us don't want them. And they
Mhm.
happen to get caught up into the middle. But they know to go over there, they got to deal with the doctrine of humility, religion
Mhm.
that humbles you, right?
Yeah.
They know that if you go to the clock of destiny, you got to be professional. You know, some more called me up a couple months ago about clock of destiny, about nationality and study. I said, brother, you go to MSTFA. Here you got to work.
Yeah, I
Then,
see it's more esoteric teachings on the clock of destiny. It's more astrology and science of self and
absolutely. You know,
metaphysics.
yeah, that's clock of destiny.
Yeah.
You know, go to MSTFA because some of these Moors, they need to learn about the prophet and about Jesus and his journeys, his 7 cycles. You know what I mean? They need refinement. They need to know their lower self and higher self. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? You know, that's the first step. Some of them just jump right into the knowledge. You know, so yes, brother, I see a difference, right? And it's primarily in the culture of them. You know, actually, I was thinking about today, literally speaking, shutting down the Clark College.
Nah, don't do that.
You know, I was thinking about that because these people of color need to go to MSCFA. They need to practice humility and and know that the lower self, all those things that does harm, not only to themselves and to their family, but to the community of nations of the world.
Mm.
See,
Mhm.
understand that, you know, with you.
Got you. Got you. All right. So you went through Moorish Science with you went to Moorish Science because of Messiah's because you guys traded information. Messiah and then Messiah brought you didn't necessarily bring you through, but he gave you some information. From there, you went to the clock of destiny, right?
Yes.
Okay. Now, how did you become a person that had the so-called keys to clock of destiny?
I think my Glock.
So
Mine's on pistols, Ron.
What
the
you say?
names that I mentioned, huh? What's
Yeah,
that?
mine. Ron's thinking about pistols right here. He's like the Glock. I was like,
The Glock, the Glock. No,
yeah.
okay.
No, my bad.
Oh man.
So the names I mentioned earlier, there was a man named he was 80 years old, right? He returned to the essence of life at age 82. So the names that I mentioned, they were there on several occasions when the late Joseph Dumas Bay gave me the revised clock investment card and tax card and temple card and constitution and other documents. He gave me a package that only a few still have today. When CMA had a stroke, he wrote down some meaningful stuff in it. I said, Messiah, would you mind going and make copies for the brothers? Messiah made copies for everybody. Hakeem, man, God, everybody else in that room had copies. And so I got it to Dumas Bay. Dumas Bay was the minister of law under Dr. CM Bay, minister of law. And I met him in Cleveland, Ohio, and he decided to come to New York City with some other Moors in Cleveland, Ohio, to give me the materials to reinstate the clock order. And the clock order, if you read the preamble, it's very simple. It's about industry. Moors from the clock supposed to be dealing with businesses, setting up businesses, dealing with good government, enterprises. Simmons said that the Europeans and Asiatics depend on one another for economic and social progress. You see, so the Moors and the clock will be doing works of economic advancement, progress, for the good of all humanity, not just people of black, brown, red, and yellow, but also local Cajun seed. You see what I'm saying? Right? So I got it through Dumas Bay. And the great name I mentioned, Man God, Allah Il, Ralim Salahuddin Il, Neherti Il, Messiah Bay, Hakeem Bay. I can go down the list, right? They would then say, I bear witness. You see, so don't question me. Ask them to verify. And they'll tell you, listen. So a lot of people fought and they want this knowledge. But this is adab knowledge. I like MSTFA. Before you go to adab chamber, you got to first deal with the fundamentals. And you can't just walk into the adab chamber. Like basically gods and earths. You don't get 100. You don't get plus degrees. Law do 60. Law will manifest the dimensions. You have first study. It took me 6 months to get anything plus. You know what I'm saying? So you have people coming to the clock. People come MSTFA. Y'all want to jump the gun. You see, everything is a process. You got to earn yours. This is why I was able to do the ambassador stuff for the nation. Charged by the federal government. And after that, let go. Because international powers called the U.S. And I was released. Because there's a certain science with the clock of destiny that allows people of color to become economically self-sufficient.
I seen that in the book. In volumes 1 and 2, like you had the numbering table of the colors, the frequency, the equivalent of every color. I know brown was 0, was O. I think black. I forgot how it went, but it went through 0 through 9. The mathematics.
The Morse code.
The Morse codes, and then
the code to the atomic bomb. Right.
Yeah.
Right. Absolutely.
And he spoke about the world events astrologically from Hitler's birthday and other people's birthday and the zodiacs. I looked up on mine. Sagittarius affects the hips, Aries is the head, and all that stuff. And I was
Right.
like, okay, this is straight astrology right here. And
Yeah, it's real. All you gotta do is look at it and see it in yourself. He taught us, he taught us how to deal with humanity
Mhm.
as a whole. You know what I'm saying? A
Yeah.
lot of a lot of individuals, they didn't come for the pure science. So as God, you sit back and you watch them fall to the wayside. But the clock is one of the keys, to my experience, for the improvement of our people. But you got to
Mhm.
be, knowledgeable, educated. You see, you know,
Got you. So now, after Clock of Destiny and doing what you did there, how did you become a diplomatic strategist? And this part of your bio, diplomatic strategist. When I see you online, I always wonder, like, how did he get over there? What is he doing over there? Well,
Yeah.
how did that happen over there? Like, on if you've been watching him online on
Mhm.
Facebook for years,
Yeah.
it's
He
like,
be
how
everywhere.
over there? How'd you end up over there? Like, how did that happen? So, like, when you say diplomatic strategist and human rights consultant and protocol, like all of this, it's now like ringing bells to me. Like, oh, okay, okay. So now, how did you get into doing that stuff?
okay. Well, let me give you some basic knowledge. Very important, brothers. Very important. To all listeners, all the schools that I mentioned, especially the 5%. Let me start there. It gives you discipline when you heed the knowledge. It gives you refinement because you clean yourself up. It means you know how to dress, how Allah taught us, right? Dress your best, right? Right? Be clean, right?
Mhm.
Mathematics, English, see lesson number 1, right? So brothers have to know how to talk to others, communicate without using profanity,
Hmm.
know how to deal with the tone system,
Mhm.
knowing body language, right? Because 11th degree alphabet is K for king, king or kingdom, right?
Hmm.
So to be a king, you gotta be a ruler. To be a ruler, you gotta be humble, but yet assertive, with wisdom, right? Um, um, you have to be able to not be non-emotional, like many of the gods are, right? And not reactionary to things that of cause and effect. So it
Mhm.
teaches you some fundamentals, right? To be a leader. To be a leader, you gotta know how to engage others and deal with others of different cultures. Now, the one thing that the Lord taught us when we was babies, that we are not anti-white and we are not pro-black. We are not anti-white and we are not pro-black. That gives you the opportunity to deal with all nations of the earth without being pro-black, right, or anti-white. We deal with justice and righteousness, right? So that being instilled and growing up with that, and we building on a corner, we learn to respect another man or another woman's understanding, right? Right? So what happened? I acknowledge my equality, right? And through my equality, you see the God in me.
Right.
You're gonna have a level how you build on that. I'm gonna learn
Mhm.
to respect how you build, right? Because you gotta show and prove how you see it to help me understand your angle and the reverse. That means you now have to learn how to deal with communication and respecting other people. What? Ideology.
Right. Real quick,
Mhm.
just to go to the chat. Benjamin Bay, you might have missed it, so you don't know what he's talking about, but he's basically explaining how, the teachings from the 5% nation teaches you how to basically be man and then God at the end of the day. Just to
Focus.
summarize, just to
Teaches you how to
summarize.
focus, how to zone in, how to tune into yourself, the discipline, the rigorous studies of going over your lessons, which is it helps increase your focus as he said in your discipline, call and respond.
Right. That's what I'm saying on that scale. Now I'm
Yeah.
coming up to the whole dogmatic point of view, right? So now you go to Moorish Science.
Mhm.
The prophet said, Moors, look your best. The prophet said, Moors, allow the government to exist long enough for you to learn government. The prophet said, Moors, if I have European education, I can use you. Right? The prophet said, Moors, be among the affairs of men. Right? Indeed, refinement, true indeed. Peace. Right? This is what the prophet said. Noble Ali. Right?
Mhm.
So I'm sitting among the affairs of men and women. Right? I dress my best, the best of my ability. I learn to communicate with nations of the earth when I sit at delegate sessions at the UN, for example. Right? You know, I know how to turn on and mellow out to turn off to a certain degree. Right? Because the prophet had a plan. So you have the law. The law said the earth is to be built on. Right? The law said we're part and partial of this said government. So we got to know how to work in the government, be part of the government, but still satisfy the affairs of our people.
Wait, you
Right?
mean the prophet said being part and partial of the government?
Absolutely.
Right, because you said a law. So
Well,
you, yeah,
law said the earth is to be built on.
right. And then after that, you said Allah said be part and partial to said government.
Thank you, brother.
But you meant
Appreciate
you meant to say Noble Ali.
Pardon, Ron. We just gotta,
Absolutely.
gotta be writing exact on it because you got fanatics that will get on here and will argue
Oh, no
tooth
doubt,
and
no
nail.
doubt, no doubt.
Yeah, so
Prophet
you
said,
know
yeah,
I gotta you
we are
gotta
partial of this said government.
right.
Yeah.
Now we someone overseas. Now we're foreigners. You say we're Moroccan descendants born in America. Not Moroccans born in Morocco and came here, right? But I won't get into that right now, right? But the point I'm making, look at the evolution, look at the change. So you go from the 5%, right? Then you go into the Moorish Science, then you go into Masonry, right? I'm still talking about that, right? Masonry teaches government, discipline, right? Right? So now, here you go. So I'm sitting back and doing the knowledge because my zodiac sign says I deal with diplomacy. Absolutely. I travel. Absolutely. What I do. So I am certified with the U.S. Diplomatic Human Rights Institute out of D.C. I'm certified in human rights consultant. I personally have a case right now with somebody in Long Island who's Haitian American. He was traveling to Haiti through Diara. The officers stopped him, violated the law regarding him, and he never made it to Haiti. So the CEO of an NGO with the United Nations, I advised him, ECOSOC, the UN, they needed somebody to deal with human rights. They contacted me. So I have a current case pending in DR regarding this matter. It says August the 6th of last year. I'm certified in that area that I can address. Right? Okay. Also, UN diplomatic protocol through UNITAR, U Institute training, right? Academy. We go on. It's a UN organ. It's a UN organ that trains many officials and other organs in the UN for different areas. So I was trained by Sister Lawrence from Trinidad 2 years ago in UN protocol training. Right. So what that basically means is how to welcome dignitaries, how to address them, how to arrange the flights, the red carpet, the vehicles, engage them regarding their security, right? Overseas, everything that involves executive protection down to the process, procedure. I have been trained in that, right? So you see diplomatic strategy. You can look at Oxford, executive strategy program I completed, right? I go on with other Ivy League universities I have studied under. So that comes from that perspective. So there go the evolution. See, the Black Messiah, who was one of the 9 borns of Allah, the Father sent,
Mm-hmm.
I learned this here, that he said your plus degree is like your college degree, right? Your certificate, right? So it wasn't just the plus lessons, it's also your advanced education. You see, like Allah culture, he's an architecture, Allah culture, who taught me, right? You know, I know brothers got um, executive MBAs, right? Um, the God beloved, another architecture. These are plus degrees. You know what I'm saying? Um, Allah B, return to the essence. He got his BA, right? You see what I'm saying? Right?
Mm.
So all I did was go into other studies based on my foundation and just follow the map. So you see that diplomatic strategy and human rights consultant, right? You see actual certifications trained in these areas where it says what is the prescribed laws of Islam of a person of that ability,
Ability. Right.
right? So if you have a certain qualification, certain skill set, certain trainings, then your responsibility to release it based on the cause that is before you, that is in need.
That makes sense, bro. That's deep right there.
Indeed.
Because
Actual fact.
you're doing for your nation. It's what you contribute, what you give back.
Right. Basically, the basic business of the basic practice of business, you find a need and you fill in that gap.
Right,
Mhm.
right. And that's always the key. You know what I'm saying? The key, like right now, when I'm sharing, many may be unknown to it. Many may have never heard of it. They say, hey, Nakeem is involved with high level demonstrations, but he came from the grassroots.
Mhm.
Exactly. Right? I have to be authentic, right? You're going to respect me if I'm transparent. I came from, and now look at the journeys I've taken the best part for myself. I kept my foundation.
Mhm.
Everything else after that, I just took the best part for myself and add on to myself to make sure everything was square, and what? Perpendicular.
Right.
Mhm. Mm.
Actual fact. Actual fact. So before we close out, is there anything that you want to give to the people? I mean, I want to keep having you up, and I mean, you have so much to offer
Yeah.
the people. I want to go back into that finance bill, next time. But before we close out, if there's anything you want to give to the people, tell the people right now. Give them your Instagram handles or last words or what have you. Everything.
Email, website, all that.
Yeah.
Yeah. My last word. Well, if you go to Google, you enter Nakeem Bay, comma, Bishop, Nakeem Bay, Ambassador, you know, um, I enter Nakeem Bay, and you'll see me throughout the whole system. You know, um, I don't I don't approve Moors on Facebook because all they talk about is something Moorish, right? And that's the thing is beyond the rhetoric sometimes, right? Um, what I'm going to say is this here: don't limit your mind; you limit yourself.
Mhm.
Don't become dogmatic; become infinite. Usually, the finite don't comprehend the infinite. It is
Right.
fine. I was told by one of my dear brothers, Aga, who passed away, if I went to Masonry, ask him about it. And I had 120 degrees then. And he said to me, don't be like a cucumber and go into vinegar and come out a pickle.
Mm.
He said, go into vinegar and come out a cucumber. And I bear witness to the understanding back then when I was 19 years old.
Mhm.
Meaning be able to go into different schools of learning, schools of thoughts, without becoming indoctrinated and subject to. But the main thing, the knowledge there helps you improve in your ways and your actions, and the knowledge that helps you become prosperous. If what you're learning, you're not growing beyond you sitting in a chair, then something is wrong. Because wisdom is the application of the knowledge. It's what you apply or the way you make yourself known to others. Don't be this rhetoric or the wisdom. That's why we're spoken by the wise and the power of the wise that don't, because it sounds good and it's beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Be an example to show and prove through examples. Be refined. Learn to speak well. Deal with people as people and kill the anti-white and the pro-black, because they're all human families of the planet Earth.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You know, and it's about adding on to improve yourself. And the main thing, your babies is the key to your legacy. And they're going to watch what you see more, and you already know it, than what you tell them. Start setting those things up in your own household. So bottom line, allow this now to help you grow. If you get stagnated, just know it's probably because you have outgrown that phase. Now, all of my organizations, I still visit all of them. And some people don't understand, right? Because you ain't no thief. You don't take and you leave. You pay homage and respect. Sit back and do the knowledge. But don't get dogmatic. Because many people in all those schools I mentioned, they stay on 6 and never go to 7 and beyond.
Oh, talk about it. Talk about it.
Yes, sir.
Can't do the dogmatic stuff. I'm not a fan of that. Now it's just influence everywhere. You pick up from everywhere.
Absolutely.
Just like CM Bay said in his book, each day is a degree. The sun, everything orbits around the sun day
That's
by
right.
day.
Right.
That's right.
So take it all.
I mean, we have to be able to, and I said, respect all religions. Me, I agree. Respect all religions. America is great because it is a free constitution. I know what's going on in the world. How it says in the Bible, even that will pass.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You know, it's only a phase. It's a cipher. You know what I'm saying? We sit back. So I want to say, you want to find me. Like I said, I don't deal with Moors on Facebook. If you're about being industrious, progressive, and so forth, don't call me about joining Clock of Destiny and all that stuff, because I want to be around people who's qualified to advance society and not stagnated. If you're in the immature, stay there, because there's a lot to learn there. You got clock material, study it, understand, and apply it. But wherever you go, everything is a development stage. This knowledge has taken me to this level. I've sit among high dignitaries at the UN. Absolutely. Met big people overseas. Right? It's a knowledge, you see, because it says that I'm going to change it around. In order to teach the science of everything in life, you got to first know it. In order to know it, you got to go after it. Some may not qualify for a college degree because they don't want to go to college. Get a certification. Get something. You know what I mean? Right?
Yep.
You cannot build with nothing. And don't, just try to learn as you go along. Because the building has to first be built. Then come along at the next cycle as apprentice and learn. So as men, we gotta take our lead and by example. The fezes, the flags, the IDs, that don't mean nothing. You had nothing to show for it. Because at the end, the babies gonna look at us. We gotta show and prove, not show and tell.
Damn.
That's a bar right there, man. That's a
Bars, man. They're not gonna be happy with that.
On that note, thank you for coming out this evening. I really appreciate you, Nakeem Bay. Thank you, Mikey, for joining this evening. Well, why am I telling you that?
He's tired, bro. See?
Hey, I appreciate it, man. You know, definitely.
Peace to everybody in the chat.
Peace.
And we are out of here. Peace.
Peace.